Thanks for listening to the Women Emerging podcast. Every week we put up a new episode with insights into leadership, practical leadership, seen through the eyes of women leaders of all ages and all sectors from right across the world. Our aim is for women to be able to say, if that's leadership, I'm in. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and join Women Emerging on our website, womenemerging.org. That's womenemerging.org for more fabulous free leadership content. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Julie Middleton here, Women Emerging director, leader, whatever. Up to now I've been introducing myself as the expedition leader, but the expedition has come to a close this weekend, quite extraordinary, and we move to the next phase, having put all of our efforts into finding an approach to leadership that resonates for women. We now have to capture it and share it with all of you and with your help. So today we leave Italy, and Italy is where we have gathered to put all our minds together, the 24 women who've been on the expedition, meeting for the first time at this extraordinary place. We've spent 4 days at the Rockefeller Foundation Center on Lake Como called Bellagio, and determinedly worked together to produce this approach to leadership. It has been a truly glorious week in a glorious place with utterly glorious and non-typical February weather, with a fabulous group of 24 people. But just before we left, I sort of stole Sarah and Anna for you and asked them to tell us a little bit about what happened, what's happened over the last few days, give you a sense of it, and maybe tell you particularly the crucial bit, how music has played such a key part over the last few days in what we've done, and maybe give you a tiny glimpse of what is starting to form in our very exhausted heads. So, Sarah first. So, Sarah, it is now Saturday morning. Bellagio is looking even more beautiful. It's been unbelievable. It's I know it's an amazing place, but the weather has, for February particularly, has been, I don't know, the sun has just been everywhere, hasn't it?
It has. I think it's been unexpected in every way, in the most delightful ways.
So, go on. What's happened this week, Sarah? And first, just know, Sarah and Ayesha have chaired this week and given me the total privilege and delight of listening. Mm-hmm. So they have borne the burden, but ignoring the burden, what happened this week in your eyes, Sarah?
And I think I would reframe. Nothing of this week felt like a burden. It felt like probably one of the most liberating experiences I've ever had, to be honest with you. You often I think of pivot points in life where I can point back and I can see a complete directional change in the way that I think. I think after this week, I think I'll move differently in the world.
What's that mean?
I think my whole body will move differently. I have had conversations and experiences where I've been struggling with how to put words to this, but something's been shifted in my body physically that I can feel, that I didn't even know was alive. I was, thinking about it this morning, and thinking about how the first kind of thing that came to my head as I was sitting trying to find a very big cappuccino this morning was, I think I'm going to have an intellectual hangover.
Yes, no.
But then I thought, no, I'm not.
Well, I am.
Well, in some ways, but I think what I kind of and I know this won't make sense, but it's almost like I'm going to have a humanity hangover.
Yeah.
I've never experienced humanity like this. I've never experienced humanness like this. I've never experienced emotion like this in depth, and just absolutely pure admiration with this profound sense of love for people I've never met in person.
So why has this, I can see it's been important for you. Is it important for other women in the world, what we've been doing this week, in your view?
Yes. Yes, and only if we use it wisely.
Yeah.
Because I think an extraordinary experience like this, it's only as much as what we do with it.
Yeah.
And how we activate ourselves, how we activate these incredible bonds, how we reach out to bring people into this experience. And also to share, I mean, I think one of the most extraordinary things about this as well hasn't been sharing the successes, the accomplishments. I think, honestly, I still don't know what half of the people do in their real lives.
Yes, absolutely.
But I know the names of their partners and their family members and the biggest mistakes they made early in their career. And I'll get to what they do in the world, and I hope that a lot of us connect and do extraordinary things together. But it's the first time I've ever been to a meeting like this where it wasn't all about the doing, and it was about what was inside and working from the inside out versus the outside in, which was completely different. And I think will lead to extraordinarily different things because we have a foundation of the inside, and now it's easy to go to the outside. You very, very rarely go to the inside. And from there, you can do anything. I feel like I could call any of these women at any time of the day and night, wherever they are in the world, and they would pick up. And some of them I spent hours with, belly laughing, maybe snorting.
Absolutely.
And some of them I spent maybe 15 minutes in passing.
Absolutely. So what's been going on for you at home while you've been picking up your WhatsApp like me?
A little bit. I said coming here it was Herculean. I'm a single mom of 3 kids, and so... Young kids. And so we had, I think I was counting the other night, I think I had 9 or 10 people doing duty while I've been gone this week. So dinners, neighbors have been doing dinners, my parents have done a few nights, people have been coming and staying over, and I have not had one call from my children. Except
you have had the reported, if I'm right, message from your daughter that, how come when you get home, Mummy, no one will be helping you?
Yes, that was brilliant. Which made me realize, like, it's interesting, right? It's a little bit of reflection of here too. We are a collection of the baggage we bring and the baggage we collect and bring with us, and just remarkable too, just the reflection of just how many people showed up. But also reflections of oneself, where we've invested our time, and the relationships that we have.
But I suppose also the sense that you come to a place like this and you're cut off, and that's weird. But also you feel you've got to do something important if you're in a place like this.
Yes. But I think I'd reframe too, because I think oftentimes when we think about what we have to do, when you say that, I'll explain what like when you say that, I feel a little bit of another thing put on my shoulders, like another thing on the plate.
But maybe it should be, because privilege is responsibility.
Yes, and I think part of it is when it feels very external when that's when you've got to go do something important. And I think that I would reframe it to say we have to do something very important. Yeah, fair point. Because now I feel like
it's a we.
It's a we. Maybe before I would have said, okay, when I went into this, I have this extraordinary experience. I have to do something. And I think that was one of those moments of click where I changed directions here, was like, stop thinking in the I. We're not going to accomplish anything if it's not the we. And we have been so trained where all of our systems, all of the ways that we think is accomplish, here's what I have to do to get to the next rung. And what I realized, and I've always known this, is that if we linked arms and found the ways in which it's not RIP, where does it go? Who sits with it? And we think about the ways in which we could activate through this connected network. But then how do we bring people along? So we're asking people to step into something that they can see themselves, and that there are the resources for them to be able to do that in a way that allows them to find their we.
I agree with that. And like everything in life, it's a balance. And like everything in leadership, it's a balance. I also often see people, at the end of things like this, everybody talks about the we and then goes back to their real lives. And so it is a mixture. We've got to talk about the we, and then you've got to also not hide behind the we and say, actually, I'm also going to do some things myself and carry that one.
Agree.
So it's the eternal balancing act, isn't it? And a tough one. I don't know if it's for you, but the other thing is, twice or three times now, Aparna has danced for us.
Ugh.
And then explain to us. She's got long, beautiful fingers, so my little stumpy ones don't show them. But that's the beauty of her before she danced, of showing us the symbolisms of a few of the things so that we could understand the stories of her dancing. But there have been some moments, and then there's been some extraordinary musical moments.
Ugh. I think that's the effect of why I will move. My body will move differently in this world. Not that I think that I will move anything near Aparna, but I think I realize that I in particular live from the shoulders up. Everything is in my head. And the music and watching Aparna dance and Anna's music help me ground and feel and experience things in ways that I had never processed things. And I was saying to Anna the other day when we were sitting by the water, I always thought that my thoughts and everything that I was doing in my head controlled my body, until I heard her music and I realized my body actually deeply controlled my thinking and where things came from, and how deeply the knowing within ourselves, that deep wisdom within ourselves, how deep how much it's contained in some of us that aren't necessarily express ourselves through the arts, and how much we're missing out on, because both of them probably some of the biggest brains I've ever experienced between the two of them. But it's
not just brains, is it?
No. But I think I never attributed it to that. In the past, I would have always attributed it to what a big brain.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And now it's like, I don't know what percentage of our brain we actually use, right? But then with the ways in which they express themselves without saying a word is more powerful than all of the words that I will ever string together. And feeling
That's
things
not
that
true.
actually...
You string some extremely good words together.
So I get lucky.
No. Will you please stop being humble?
It's because I say so many of them.
We need all of us, dear Sarah.
It's like
you are amazing. But it was that love of Anna that made you go and join her on that day.
It's interesting. We did this activity for people that weren't with us, where we had to come up with a metaphor for leadership, for what a type of leadership. And I think in pictures, so I thought this was going to be a home run for me. I thought this is going to be where I will shine. And FYI for you at home, I did not shine.
You did? You drew a very beautiful circle.
I didn't draw that circle.
Oh, you didn't? It was,
no,
circle wasn't
I was blank. I was so ashamed. I was waiting. I really knew where this was in the agenda. I thought this is my moment to step in.
So explain what this circle is.
So I was sitting next to Anna, and I was watching people put up their models and drawing a blank, and I'm watching her, and she's sitting to my right. and she's struggling. I don't know what she's struggling with. And I reached over, I said, are you going to put one up? And she said, I don't think my idea is good enough to put up. Or I can't, no, that wasn't, I'm not, to the extent of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to put something up. And I just sat there and watched her. And then she just drew a circle. And she put it up on the board. And she said, a very small circle on a much bigger page proportionally. And everybody stood up to talk about what their model was and how they were thinking about it and all the components. And she just kind of stood up and said...
And she showed.
And she said, I just am thinking about it as a sun. And I'm not sure why. And I think something's there. And then the way that the activity worked is everybody was kind of assigned a place around where we've been working, and you go find the model that resonated with you. And I thought, God, I want to know what's in that circle. And I walked, and there she is standing alone in there. And I said, Anna, is it who are you working with? And she said, no, I'm just standing here alone. And I said, well, it's me. And I felt like I won the lottery. I felt like poor everybody else.
No, 10 lotteries.
10 lotteries. I thought, I get Anna for an hour and a half to hear what is behind this circle.
Okay. So you must go home.
Yes.
And now I'll go and find Anna, and I'll get her to tell us about the circle. And maybe I'll get her to play the violin first.
Oh, please.
And I promise to send it to you as soon as it's recorded.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, you got a long flight. But then 3 delicious children jumping up and down, delighted to see you.
I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to, see if that comes true.
It will.
Yeah.
It will.
Be lovely.
So, Anna, Sarah came and joined you in a corner of the room because you'd drawn a circle, which was the sun. What did the sun mean to you, and why did you choose the sun?
I was really struggling with this task to make my metaphor, and it happened that we had free time when I went up to the hill, and I was admiring this view, which is just like dream view, like paradise on earth. And I was admiring the flowers, the trees, birds, and I was like thinking, we're looking for approach to leadership. And of course, it exists, so we don't make a new wheel. So I was thinking, if that exists already in nature, what's the enabler of all those flowers and trees? And I thought, oh God, it's the sun. It's the sun that makes us grow, that show us that show us like places that we can't see when there is darkness. So it gives visibility.
It gives energy.
Gives energy, and also the thing is that doesn't impose the final form of your growth.
Yes.
It just gives you the kick, and that for me is a real leading role.
And you can't see it for 24 hours.
Yes, and and also we're supposed to think it's a central point, but we see other things. We see the results of sun. We admire the results of sun, And also when I thought, oh, that's a good metaphor, and I drove it, this circle, which is maybe the first shape we make when we are a child. To draw something, and it was like, it's so obvious when I see, and I will say the sun, like the sun. So it seemed so obvious, but then when I was digging in with Sarah, we discovered so many corners and so many aspects of great leadership. And if you want to see leadership in a different way, by leading, I think we should start with the obvious things. to reshape the sun.
All the way through when we were at Bellagio, you played your violin.
Yes.
And that produced lots of tears and lots of smiles and lots of joy, and then lots of other people bringing their art to join your violin. But let's just think about this is a ridiculous question, but if the sun could play the violin, what would it play?
I think it would play pizzicato.
Go on.
Because pizzicato gives you a space for other voices to appear. You can treat it as a main melody sometimes, you know? But sometimes it gives you the parameters, the frame.
And what does pizzicato mean?
Pizzicato is like that. So it's like accompaniment, but we really underestimate accompaniment, which is, you know, when the first violins and second violins in the orchestra, the first violins are the one that plays melody usually. So we all eyes on first violins, but then when they can't hear the second violins playing like, we don't have a context of a rhythm, of a speed. It gives us a context. We all in the context. We're not like floating islands, you know. It just gives you the context and the mutual advantage of our presence. It is that. So I can actually, if I can ask all our listeners now to sing, even if they, you know, listening, if you're listening in your bathroom is even better. So I will give you the kind of frame and you can improvise whatever you want.
So the sun is the leader and it just does pizzicato. It doesn't do a full...
And leading within the group, I think this changed my way of thinking about leading. In the way you can be the sun, you don't need to be the most important or most knowledgeable or the best or the leader. Leader is kind of connotation with the best, like, you know, you run the fastest, so you're the leader of the marathon or whatever.
Or you have the badge.
Or you have the badge. So in our heads, when I would like to say you're the leader, you're also enabler, you're also change maker, you also have the voice, and you also have the silence.
And it's the background voice.
Many times it's the background, sometimes it can be the front, sometimes it can be the back, and embracing all those roles.
When needed.
When needed. The time, I think, timing is
everything, isn't it?
Is everything.
And that came out constantly all the way through, wasn't it? It's, you have to do both, but the really tricky thing is to choose which one to do when. Yes, totally. That was the consistent message, wasn't it? But it was also, it was your music all the way through also did its leadership itself. And for that I will be eternally grateful.
Thank you.
And when you'd spent a long time talking with Sarah, you produced this extraordinary, what would you call it, a poem?
Yes, kind of poem. The sun shedding light on the hidden possibilities of your invisibility. She is power. She provides both light and shadow. She trusts that the trees will bear fruits in their own time. She can survive on her own, but cannot alone fulfill her purpose. She's underestimated as a spot in the sky, but she knows her true size. She can shift perspective just by her being. She knows herself not by her given name, but by her practice. She embraces clouds, even though they dampen her light. She has humility to understand she's necessary, but not sufficient. She matters whether or not the tree bears fruit. She knows that if she abuses her power, she can destroy what she is building. She provides a continuous invitation to grow. She's connected to what was, what is, and what will be. She embraces transitions and cycles, even though she doesn't control the outcome. She's omnipresent for generations and continues to rise. She understands that visibility doesn't mean exposure. She creates the environment for others to thrive. She gives the illusion of standing still. She's always moving. She bears witness to trauma while continuing to rise. She provides the shape to interpret space and time. She is. You are. We are love.
So that's it. That's exhausted it. I leave you now. Our task now is to turn that lovely poem into a whole body of work that will inspire women all over the world to say, if that's leadership, I'm in. Next week's podcast, it seems that I think we should do a few episodes that capture some of the pillars of what we discussed. So the first pillar will be revealed next week. Do join us. In the meantime, I send you much, much love.
To become part of our movement and share your thinking with us, subscribe to the podcast and join the Women Emerging group on our website at womenemerging.org. We love all of the messages you send us. Keep them coming.